A warm welcome. You're tuned into Eye on Africa. I'm Rochelle Ferguson-Biahi with the top stories for you on the continent. Nigerian health officials say at least 50 people were killed in a Boko Haram ambush in the country's northeast this week. The attack marks the militant group's deadliest in months. We bring you the latest from Abuja. World Hepatitis Day takes place every year on July 28th with the aim of raising global awareness. We explore what the African continent is doing to eliminate the virus. And we speak to film director and photographer Christin Bela. His latest documentary entitled The Hidden France explores testimonies from France's black community. But first to our top story. Nigerian health officials say at least 50 people were killed in a Boko Haram ambush on an oil exploration team in the country's northeast this week. At least 5 members of a specialist team from Nigeria's National Petroleum Corporation were killed, in addition to several soldiers. The attack in Borno State marks Boko Haram's bloodiest in months. Army chiefs have since been ordered to relocate to the affected area. To bring us the very latest on this, Japeth Omojuwa joins us from Abuja. Japeth, good to have you. This deadly attack underlines just how much of a threat Boko Haram still is.
It underlines the fact that even though Boko Haram has been on the retreat for the last 2 years, they are still capable of very, very destructive attacks like this one. This is the worst attack in a long time. Some 50 people were killed, even though we're hearing a different report from the army. And it also means that Nigeria must pay extra attention to the terror that Boko Haram continues to pose.
Now, at the same time, military chiefs, or army chiefs indeed, have been ordered to relocate to the affected area. Are we expecting a new strategy from Nigeria's military?
We are expecting a new strategy, and it goes without saying it has become necessary, because even though they've been on the retreat for the past 2 years, they've also shown the ability to carry out soft attacks, including destructive attacks like the one they did on Tuesday. So definitely there is a need for a new strategy, and it is very, very good that this is being put in place right now.
OK, Japeth Omojuwa joining us from Abuja. Thank you. Cameroon is observing 2 days of mourning for soldiers who died when an army vessel capsized off the country's southwestern coast. Military personnel paid a tribute to the soldiers in Douala today, with flags flown at half-mast nationwide. Of the 37 soldiers on board, just 3 survived the shipwreck. The elite troops were transporting supplies to the Bakassi region when the tragedy struck.
I'm so sad. You see me on black. It's not because I wish to wear black. It's because of the situation that is in Cameroon. We are mourning our children that have died in the sea, all our armies. As a father, you will one day live to see our children progress and to replace you in life. So I'm just sorry about it.
World Hepatitis Day takes place every year on July 28th with the aim of raising global awareness. Viral hepatitis is one of the leading causes of death globally, accounting for over 1.3 million deaths per year. Hepatitis B and C, the 2 main killers of 5 types of hepatitis. Well, this year, the World Health Organization has published a report showing that of the 28 countries most affected by hepatitis, all have made efforts to eliminate the virus. Well, for more, Dr. Mark Bulteri is team leader of the Global Hepatitis Programme for the World Health Organization. Dr. Bulteri, thanks very much for joining us. 10 African countries are among those making progress when it comes to eliminating the hepatitis virus.
Well, thank you for having me on the program. And this is the report that the World Health Organization has come out with this year. And it describes how important hepatitis B and C are globally, and they cause many deaths, more than 1.3 million deaths a year, primarily due to liver cancer and due to cirrhosis. And the continent of Africa also has substantial numbers of chronic hepatitis B and C. For hepatitis B, we estimate approximately 6% of the population has hepatitis B infection.
Chronic levels, you say. Just talk us through briefly, if you can. How can people avoid getting hepatitis?
Yes, for hepatitis C, it is primarily transmitted through injections that can be received in the healthcare system if they're contaminated, or also in other settings. Of course, injecting drug users also would have a very, very high risk of becoming infected. For hepatitis B, primarily the infection gets transmitted from mother to child or in early childhood. And that becomes a chronic infection then, which carries then the risk of liver cancer much later in life. Occasionally, it can also be transmitted in the healthcare system.
OK, Dr. Mark Bulteres, your team leader of the Global Hepatitis Programme for the World Health Organization. Thank you very much for your time this evening. Tonight at midnight marks the end of campaigning for parliamentary elections in Senegal. Voting takes place on Sunday when about 40 coalitions will go head-to-head for 165 seats. Sarah Sacco reports from Dakar.
Mankou Tahawu Senegal, one of the opposition coalitions, is making their final push for votes. Supporters marched in the low-income neighbourhood of Anne, gathering last-minute support. For the coalition led by Khalifa Sall, the imprisoned mayor of Dakar, a lot is riding on winning votes in the capital.
We must prove to the Senegalese that despite him being in prison, that the Senegalese, the Dakar residents, still love him. Dakar has chosen him. They don't believe this theory that he stole money or things like that.
This voter needs no convincing.
I'm voting for Khalifa Sall, for change. We're with Khalifa till the end.
Coalition leaders fear voter fraud during these legislative elections.
There's hesitation, it's a mess. We can't trust the electoral process. It's no longer transparent. Voting's going ahead, but we don't agree with the fact that people can vote with any piece of ID.
In the suburbs of Dakar at Parcelles Asseni, the presidential majority, Benno Bokk Yakaar, have been campaigning in the street. Amadou Ba, the local head of the party, is fervently awaited by supporters. Here, President Macky Sall's record is heavily defended.
We have to get the majority. Once we have it, the president will be able to do what the population expects of him with the Senegal Emerging Plan. We expect a lot from Macky Sall. We're backing Amadou Ba. We're with Yakaar.
Supporters of the party in power refuse to acknowledge the opposition's accusations of fraud.
We ask the Senegalese who haven't yet received their voting cards to show their receipts, proving that they've actually registered based on their old card. I think there can be no problem at this level.
Voters will have to choose between one of 47 lists of candidates at the ballot boxes in Sunday's poll.
Tonight's guest is Christin Bela, an up-and-coming young film director and photographer. His latest documentary, France Cachée, or The Hidden France, offers testimonies from French people with African and West Indian origins. Let's take a look.
Zote bongo kisikulu so dusa yoro. Vendinju ke si bute simbiaga zwe. Zwere pu ni boso. Ndendi nimbia ipazwe nchire.
Christin, good to have you. That's the latest trailer of your latest documentary. What made you want to make it?
The reason why I made France Cachée because I wanted to let people to talk for themselves. I wanted to represent the diversity that I saw in the French community. So I wanted to just to tell people, look, this is the diversity we have here. We have creative people. We have so many talents that we don't see in the mainstream media. So the idea just came together, and we created a project, France Cachée.
As far as you're concerned, you touched on mainstream media there. Are black people, black French people specifically, underrepresented in mainstream media as far as you're concerned?
Yeah. To me, like actually, I see that whenever we talk about the black people in France, we see sport or we see dance, but we don't see entrepreneur. We don't see some other diversity. So it was really important for me to let people to express themselves.
So the message you're sending is that ultimately black people are not limited to sport or to music. They're doing plenty of other things. Yeah. You spoke to a lot of black French people. What was the stereotypes that they feel surrounding them, if you will?
The stereotypes of black people in France, it's mostly about the mother with a lot of kids, the poor family. It's always about immigration. It's always about the family trying to. It's always about the integration. So what I wanted is to tell a different story of black people in France. Was to really tell people, look, the black history, the black people in France have different story. It's not about just immigration. It's not about just the mother with 5 or 10 kids. You know, there is also a lot of stories that need to be told. Of those stories, I mean, you interviewed a lot of people for this documentary, and it's absolutely worth seeing. Do black people in France feel French? Are they identifying with their French nationality? I think with the few people I've spoken to, I feel like there is a problem here because most black French, they don't feel French enough because they always have the question of where are you from? You know, even though they're French, but they always ask them the question, where are you from, based on how they look like. So it would be like, I'm from Mali, you know. So they always send them back to where they're from, you know. So same when they go to Africa, there is always a, you're not African enough. So when they come back to Paris, you're not Parisian, you're not black enough. So identity is a question that I also wanted to bring up to this documentary. Okay, so one of the things that came out of it for you was almost no man's land, essentially, where black French people are not quite African enough, but also not quite French enough. Yeah. Okay, well, your next showing of your film is on August the 5th. That's going to be here in Paris. Where exactly? That will be in the Black Movie Summer. It will be in Paris. So the first show we have was really successful. We had over 200 people. But over the next 200, one will be... And this next one? The next one will be on August 5th. Okay, Christin Bela, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on France 24 tonight. Thank you. Look forward to seeing your film again. Thank you. You're up to date. Your Eye on Africa team will be back in about 45 minutes' time. Up next, more international headlines.